Hello, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you. I guess this is my slide mover. Maybe not. Oh, okay, it's coming. So this is a very interesting opportunity, and I wanted to let you all know, many of you are, of course, are from Spain, but we are privileged enough now to have many people in the room from all over the world, and this is because the International Council of Beverage Associations are also hosting their meeting in Madrid this week. So we worked with UNESDA to see if we could overlap a little bit and bring many of you on the international level here to listen to what we have to tell you about what's going on in the world. And can I ask you to turn it down a little bit, Anna? Can you turn your... Perfect, thank you. Okay. Cesar, can we go with the first slide, please? Okay. Opa. Don't look. Okay, so first of all, who is Reloop? I hope I can change these myself. Okay, Cesar, I'm going to have to say next then. Next, please. Next. Okay, who is Reloop? We can go quite quickly, Cesar. Okay, I want to get through this. We were founded 10 years ago. We're an international not-for-profit. We work at the juncture of NGOs, industry, and governments. Our mission is to lead the transition to a global circular economy. Next. You probably all know us for our Global Deposit book, which we publish every 2 years. It is sort of the global Bible of all things deposit return. Every 2 years, we add more information to the book. But what you probably didn't know, next please, Cesar, is that we now have put it on a dashboard so that you can find information quicker and you can slice the information exactly how you want it. If you haven't seen the dashboard, there's a QR code on the panel there, the Global Deposit Dashboard, and we are also ready to offer you training so you can learn within your company or your organization how to access this incredibly important information. Information is power. If you want to learn how these systems work, the costs, the logistics, who's on the board, who's not on the board, it's all in here. So please take a look. You can also just Google the Global Deposit Dashboard and you'll get it. Thank you, my darling. Okay, moving on. It works. Wait, where? Ah. Okay, Cesar, next, please. Okay, and just keep going through these. These are photos that I've taken of litter in my home city of Barcelona, Spain. I am a Canadian, but I've been living in Spain for 10 years. And we've seen them far too often. But here's what you need to know. It's a huge problem because did you know that of all the food and beverage packaging consumed in the world, more than half are beverage packaging. And by weight, they're far more. And we know that in European countries, those countries that have deposit return have significantly less beverage in their litter. In fact, about 86% less. Next, please. Cesar. Yep. We also know the same is true in America. For those of you from America, we know that in deposit states, they have about 43% less beverages in their litter stream. Similarly, cans, 55% less cans in the beverage stream. So we know for sure that deposit return works to reduce litter. But here is probably one of the most important things. Next, please. Is that when we look at litter, we typically, and here you have the difference. Next. We typically measure it by weight. We pick up litter, we measure 1, 2, 3 units. And that is how we can pick up litter. Next, please. However, what you don't know is that the measurement is informative. But what's more informative is if we look at it in a different way. So what we did at Reloop was we looked at the Ocean Conservatory litter data, the top 10 most littered items on the planet. And we looked at the numbers and then we applied the weight. Because obviously, if you're comparing a plastic pouch little plastic pouch versus a plastic bottle, the bottle has a greater impact on the environment if it stays in the environment. So we applied a weight, and here's what we found. Next, please. What we found in green is the number of units, in millions of units. But in orange is the number of grams, in millions of grams. And what do we see? Yeah, cigarettes are the most littered item, but when you look at plastic bottles by weight, it is almost off the charts. So what am I telling you? I am telling you that the problem of beverage containers in the litter stream is huge, and it needs to be addressed not only here in Spain and in Europe, but all over the world. Next, please. So, not to mention the cost of cleaning up litter. And why is it important for industry? Because they are going to be having to pay for those costs. We know that's going to happen here in Europe because of the Single-Use Plastics Directive and expanded scope of EPR costs, but it's also going to start happening in other countries. So that is a huge fiscal issue for industry. Next, please. So what have we seen in Europe? We've seen a lot of movement. From 2022 to 2024, these were the 6 countries that introduced new DRS, and the Netherlands expanded their DRS to include small plastic bottles and cans. We went from 29% of the EU population to 40% having deposit return. Next. And then in the next 2 years, we've already seen this year, Austria, who will be speaking later, and Poland just technically started their deposit system. We're probably going to see Portugal and Greece in 2026. And yes, Spain is scheduled for 2026. Maybe it won't be 2026, but we hope it's as soon as possible, but obviously organized in the right way. Next, please. And that will take us to 64%. If you look at the world, obviously, Turkey is a big one, and we're really going to start to see things properly rolling out in 2026. 80 million people. Uruguay in the global south, very interesting. Singapore in Asia, first world country in Asia. Queensland and Australia, which make up the entire continent of Australia on DRS. And then we have more coming in 2027 and 2028. You can read them yourself, but of course, UK is a big one with about 65 million people, and that is very much on track. I believe that the system operator gave themselves 2 years once they were told who they were. They're working on a very ambitious tight line, but I believe that they will be implementing in October of 2027. They're working hard to do that. So we can probably do that here too. Next, please. What does it mean globally? Here you can see how much more population is going to be covered by DRS, primarily from some of the big countries that I mentioned. So we're going to go from about 347 million people to just over 500 million people covered by DRS. What does that mean? It means less litter. Next, please. So I'm going to go through them quickly now, Cesar. I want to show you the results. I just showed you all the countries that just introduced DRS. Well, let's see what the results are. Let's focus on litter. We can show you the recovery rates. They've all gone up, but litter is impressive. So Latvia, 56% within 1 year of implementation. Next, please. Netherlands, on the expanded containers, they got a 65% decrease in bottles within a year of implementation, 33% on cans. Very impressive. Next, we have Republic of Ireland. After a year, 50% reduction on all container types. And next, please, we have Slovakia. Also huge reductions of 78 and 72% cans to PET bottles, respectively, over the period that they introduced. So the results are positive. And even in Australia, where the program is not as convenient, it is not returned to retail. It is harder to get your refund back, but still they experienced almost 50% reduction in litter. Next, please. So this is a big, exciting thing. And this tackles, to some extent, a big part of the waste crisis. Next, please. But probably what is even more interesting in a way is connecting the recovery of beverage containers to climate. And I'm sure you all know, and many in the room are procuring materials, you're procuring virgin plastic and virgin aluminum to put in your beverage containers. These are the most energy intensive, most quickly consumed food and beverage packaging that exists. So by putting recycled content back in those containers is paramount. So of course, when you have a deposit return program, next please, next, you get, if it's properly organized, 90% collection. And we know this because this is roughly the average in Europe today. And the new countries are coming up. And when you, as an industry, as an EPR program, are running a deposit return system, you can actually create circular beverage packaging. You have access to a lot of material and you can put it back into your packaging, and if it's local, even better. So this is a key driver for industry. And this sort of shows you why industry has changed its position, which was their typical position was not in favor of deposit return, but they're finally, at least in Europe, completely switching. Next, please. And it was why we created a campaign 3 years ago called Target 90. Let's go for 90. Let's do DRS so that you can get the material and put them right back into your bottles and cans. And it's a dual approach. You get lots of material, clean material, and you have access. And that is why we were able to bring on board many, many companies operating in Europe. Next, please. In fact, this was the creation of the beginning of what we're now calling the European Alliance for Best-in-Class Deposit Return Programs. And it was Reloop leading the initiative with all of the businesses at our sides to say, yeah, we want to transfer the knowledge of how to do it right. We want to take all of the good lessons that you've learned and communicate them through conferences and webinars and fact sheets and reports and one-on-one meetings so we can help you all and help civil servants do the best system possible. Next, please. You will see we have already quite a few large companies that are supporting us. Many of you are here. Thank you very much for making this day possible. And finally, you've got the brochure. Next, please, Cesar. There are many reasons. Cesar, next, please. There are many reasons why you are going to get direct access to leading experts, direct access to our data. People in your company will be trained to access data on our dashboard, company-wide training, stay ahead of regulation, implementation, updates. We do quarterly meetings. It is the club to be a part of. You don't only have to be European to be in this club, and we are inviting you to join. Here you have a QR code, and you can come and talk to anybody about it. So without further ado, I don't want to talk too much. I want to move on to our next speaker, which is Anna Larsson, who joins us from Reloop. She is our Director of Circular Economy Development, and she is going to talk about something that we have just released. We have some incredible fact sheets and reports on deposits on our website. This is a brand new one, and it basically has been in the formation for over 10 years, and we've just updated it. And it answers the question, what about the municipalities? What is going to happen to the municipal budget when we introduce a deposit return system? So I invite Anna Larsson to start. Anna, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I will now have to sit down because the microphone is located at the desk. I hope the interpreters can hear me. I do hope that this is the case. So let's start. And now let's see if this works. No, unfortunately, I will need to ask Cesar to help me with the decks. So we can move to next one. Today, I would like to talk about the fact sheet on the impact on the municipalities. This fact sheet. Next one until we go to the end of the slide. Thank you. This fact sheet has been based on the 45 studies that have been elaborated through 20 regions in the world. This is building up on the study that was released in 2021. Let's go to next slide, please. Thank you. And the studies have been elaborated by the government agencies, research institutes, from Australia, across North America, and down via South Africa, and in a lot of places, jurisdictions in Europe. We can go to the next one. Thank you. The conclusion is very clear and can be summarized in one sentence. Introduction of the deposit system for beverage containers does bring savings to municipalities, both in short-term and long-term perspective. We can go to next. Thank you. And let's summarize the 4 categories of savings that municipalities experience. We can go to next slide. Yes, we are there. The first group is related to the lower waste collection and transportation cost. Very well depicted by one of the studies that we have on the list in this fact sheet from Czech Republic, 7 million euro savings per year. Why? Because transportation is costly. We are transporting a very bulky waste items, bottles and cans. The labor costs. Everything is a cost, and if you introduce a deposit system as a collection methodology for beverage containers, municipalities do save money. Second portion of the cost savings is related to the fact that we have lower disposal costs. The beverage containers that are not under the deposit system are disposed through incineration on landfill. This costs money, and this is higher and higher cost. So Zero Waste Scotland elaborated on the study, and the result of the study is 3 to 6 million pounds per year savings on the disposal. If deposit system is, when deposit system is introduced in UK and in Scotland included, this cost will disappear and municipalities will not have to carry that cost. Third group of costs related to the processing at the mechanical recovery facilities. Of course, everything costs money. The beverage containers are bulky. It costs to get them through the facilities. So one of the studies that we have on the list from Minnesota Rural Community Municipality indicates the savings at the level of $20 to $28 per ton throughput, depending on the value of a deposit, which translates into $1.6 to $2 million per year. And last but not least, and the conclusion of this presentation, this part of the session, litter. We know, and it is very well proven, also described in the fact sheet of Reloop platform, littered with evidence, that deposit system, as Clarissa mentioned earlier, decreases the litter in the public spaces, at the beaches, at the riverbanks, in public parks, and that also translates into the savings. Currently, municipalities in UK pay £150 million per year. Deposit system for beverage containers apply the value to each bottle and can that is under a deposit system, and thus there is less litter in the environment and less cost for the municipalities. With this, I will finish my part of the presentation.
Thank you very much. It launched officially to the public on the 24th next week. So that's coming down the pipe. So our next speaker, I'm very happy. You know, we've talked a lot about systems. We're all familiar with deposit systems, but they're in the global north. And there is more and more interest in developing something like a DRS that we have up here, but maybe a bit different in the global south. So I'm thrilled to have with us today Martín Valese, who is the coordinator of the Global Deposit Return System platform. And Martin is going to tell us a little bit about this platform, brand new and very, very interesting. Thank you, Martin, for being with us.
Thank you.
Slides.
Sorry?
Slides.
No, actually, I think maybe, well, this, we know it doesn't work, right? Cesar?
See slides here.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much for having us today. As Clarissa said, my name is Martín. I am representing today the Global DRS platform. And it was really interesting to see so many good effects that deposit systems are delivering in global north countries across the world. Less litter, less cost for municipalities, less costs for producers as well, and secure material supply. And we believe in the global DRS platform that these same results can also be translated to global south countries. And this will be talked a little bit more in a little while. But first, I want to make a point very clear. It's what we see here. The global north and the south, we are starting from very different start points. We have very strong informal economies in the south. We have very different logistical infrastructures, very different retail infrastructures as well. As you know, different regulations, social and cultural landscapes. So if there's any design that we're going to do of a DRS in these regions, we need to have a different approach. And this is why we're going to talk about the Global South today, and part also why the Global DRS platform was created. Plastic pollution doesn't know of borders, as we all know. If we litter a bottle here in Spain, it can go through a river, coastline, shores, the ocean, and end up in another country, whether we like it or not. And that's why we believe that a solution has to be global in the first place. And we also believe that every solution, that every country needs to have a solution that they can trust in. And this is a very important concept, the concept of trust. It's basically what Clarissa and Anna were showing. It's a system that everyone can trust on. We can go to the next slide, Cesar. Actually, if we picture in the one before, we picture an everyday moment. We are drinking a beverage at a park. We finish this water bottle. We go to a store. We return it, and we get the money back. And chances are that there's people, hundreds and thousands of people doing this same thing in this very moment that we are speaking right now. But why do they do it? Probably because they understand that it's not going to be mixed with our other waste streams, or because they know that and they trust that it's going to be recycled and turned into a new bottle, or because they trust that they are going to get their money back, whether they go to a kiosk, a supermarket, whenever they go, they are going to get their money back. The important point here is whatever the reason they do it, is that people in a DRS, they know that their actions truly matter. Otherwise, why would they make the effort, right? But the point I want to make is that if we want to design a DRS for the global south, trust needs to work in more directions. Across the region, there is millions of people that are already collecting and sorting materials every day, and that have been doing it for decades, actually. These people are called waste pickers. Many of you already heard of them. Many have seen them in the global south. And they also need to trust the system. They need to trust that the system will recognize their contribution, what they have been doing for decades. They need to trust that they are going to be integrated fairly, and that their livelihoods are also going to be improved, and that they are not going to be replaced by a new system. And once they start trusting in these systems, we believe that the participation can accelerate, and real environmental and social impact that we need in the south is going to be delivered. And for producers as well in this region, the same trust can translate into something really essential. Reliable, really high quality material flows, and reduce dependence on virgin inputs as well, and reduce cost for producers as well, because as we saw in Uruguay experience, we have been working there in the past years, and the alternative to the deposit system was a tax, a waste tax, that would cost around 4 to 5 times more than the average cost of European DRS systems for the producers. So actually, it's a saving in costs, and EPR is coming to the south as well. As I said before, the starting point is very different. And this means that the process cannot be a copy-paste from what we are seeing in the global north. It must begin building from the ground up based on local realities. And we believe that the right approach is listening closely to those who are doing important work on the ground, and listening closely to local communities and local experts as well. And from there, we can build systems that are based on inclusion from the very beginning, transparent governance, sustainable financing, and built on local strengths. And this last point is very important, because there's already change happening in the Global South. Cesar, we can move to the next one, please. Here we will see some of the cases that Clarissa was mentioning before. These are all Global South regions. Uruguay will probably by the next year, the end of next year, have a DRS in place. Vietnam is already doing an economic evaluation on it. There's a lot of islands from the Pacific to the Caribbean that are already deploying, have a system in place, or will do it in the near future. And the important point with this is that the Global South is already doing a lot, is moving ahead, and is leading on circularity long before we have DRS discussions here in Europe as well. I come from Argentina, as you might have noticed by my accent. And since I was a kid, I remember going to the corner shop with my parents and returning glass bottles and plastic bottles. And that was not called circular economy. It was not called reuse. It was just intuitive. It was what we did back then. And actually, we are still doing that in Argentina, but in many other regions of the Global South as well. As a matter of fact, in Latin America, today, 40% of beverages are consumed in reuse formats, and 95% of every single bottle that goes out from a supermarket comes back, gets washed, and refilled. That's happening today in Latin America. So we can say that we have many real circularity champions before we even have a word for it. So yes, we can see that innovation is happening today, but there's also decades of knowledge, culture as a success to build upon. And this brings me to my last point, which we can see here on the screen as well, the mission of the Global DRS platform, which is first to connect experts, legislators, and stakeholders to enable successful implementation of DRS, both for reuse and recycling with social inclusion, to support the design and implementation of locally adapted DRS systems, especially focusing on collaborating with local actors, and to build collaboration that leads to real impact. Because the objective of the Global DRS is to promote the development of systems that all actors can trust in. And we are doing that today with these three pillars that you will also see in these papers that you have received. We are working on a DRS Academy. This is an initiative we made together with the Mission Zero Academy, where we train and certify experts on DRS all around the world. Everyone in this room is invited to go into the QR code we are going to show them and can actually do this training if you are interested in. Then we also have the Resource Hub, which is an open space where we also share tools, data, knowledge. There's a lot of material from Reloop as well there, and technical support and implementation area that we have developed also. So finally, Cesar, the last slide. Please scan this QR code. You will get into our website. You will see all the material that we have discussed right now. And if you have more questions, we will be around to talk a little bit more. You can talk with me, with Jean-Marc, with Michael as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martín. And now I'd like our third panelist to present himself, Xavier Curto. He's the coordinator at Surfrider and also the advocacy coordinator in Spain. This guy is face-to-face with many of the problems that we've been discussing, and he's going to share with you some of his experiences. Xavier, gracias. You're on.
A vosotros. Bueno, primero que todo, que es un placer estar aquí. Felicitar a la organización del evento, porque creo que es súper significativo que haya perfiles tan diversos y, bueno, yo he estado ahí apartado y cuando he venido aquí digo, ¡guau! Hay mucha gente. O sea, no es fácil conseguir tanta gente en un evento que tiene un carácter técnico, así que felicidades a la organización por todo ello, ¿no? Bueno, antes de empezar, por romper un poco la dinámica, os voy a pedir que inspiréis y expiréis 2 veces, ¿vale? ¿Hacemos un momento esto? Vale. Esto tiene truco, ¿eh? No es porque quiera relajarme. La mitad del oxígeno viene del océano, más o menos, o más de la mitad, ¿vale? Entonces, el océano es el pulmón del planeta. Esta reflexión sirve para entender por qué es tan importante protegerlo y por qué, a pesar de que desconocemos parte del impacto que hacemos en él, es tan importante trabajar para que los residuos no lleguen al mar, ¿vale? Y ahora, César, hoy te vamos a gastar el nombre, ¿eh? Pero bueno. Bueno, mientras me presento, trabajo en la ONG Subrider, que es lo que os quiero explicar ahora. He visto el fondo súper azul. Es una ONG fundada por surfistas en el 1990 en Biarritz. Y si vamos a la siguiente, porfa. Y que nació un poco por surfistas que se preocupaban de la protección del mar, ¿no? La ONG fue creciendo y hemos ido trabajando en tres áreas de trabajo, en basuras marinas, en calidad del agua y en temas de erosión costera y cambio climático. Y lo hacemos a través de una ONG transversal. Trabajamos en educación ambiental y voluntariado para cambiar a nivel individual y ciencia participativa e incidencia política para cambiar el sistema, porque creemos que cualquier cambio del modelo, si no hay un acompañamiento al ciudadano, no funciona y viceversa, ¿vale? Entonces, bueno, un poco representamos la voz del océano. Siguiente, porfa. Vale, aquí hay un vídeo, no sé si puede funcionar, es un vídeo que habla un poco del impacto del plástico en el océano. Tiene voz, pero no se escucha. Pero bueno, si no veis los subtítulos, bueno, que básicamente recogemos más de 80.000 botellas de plástico cada año en Surfrider. Somos campeones en consumo de botellas de agua por persona al año en Europa, o sea que es interesante. Y bueno, un poco lo que se comentaba también, el impacto de las botellas de plástico en cuanto a la producción de agua para producir ese plástico. Y que muchas de esas botellas no se recogen para reciclaje, cosa que no va a ser sorpresa para nadie porque si no, no habría esta jornada hoy, ¿verdad? Entonces hablamos de que las botellas tardan muchos años en degradarse, pero bueno, esto tiene muchos matices, ¿no? Y el impacto a la fauna, que yo creo que todos hemos visto las fotografías de imágenes con animales que tienen plástico dentro. Eh, pero ¿qué es lo preocupante del plástico? El preocupante del plástico, porque claro, que el plástico en el océano sea un problema, tiene dos puntos. Uno, que haya mucho, que lo podemos comprobar, y dos, si tiene un impacto para la fauna y para la salud. Son dos hipótesis que tenemos que contestar para que realmente sea un problema. Vale, sigamos a la siguiente, por favor. Creo que se ha vuelto a poner el vídeo. Es que es tan chulo que se pone otra vez. Aquí, vale. Entonces, ¿cómo sabemos que hay un plástico en el océano? Bueno, nosotros tenemos un programa de ciencia participativa en la que miles de personas organizan recogidas de basura en Europa. Por lo tanto, son datos de Europa, no son solo datos de España. Entonces, de esas miles de personas que organizan recogidas, no todas rellenan la hoja de balance, pero no todas tienen ese tiempo o esas capacidades, pero lo que es importante es que tenemos del año 2023 casi 700 hojas de balance, que para cualquier estudio científico es un número de muestras bastante alto. Es verdad que aquí hay un sesgo, porque claro, no es un experimentador, un científico experimentado que va a muestrear los residuos, son voluntarios, entonces puede haber algunos fallos y hay veces plásticos que no se pueden clasificar. Pero lo que sí vemos es que los residuos que están relacionados con la alimentación tienen un porcentaje muy importante, ¿vale? Lo primero son colillas. Nosotras las contamos, los residuos, ¿vale? No los pesamos por la sencilla razón de que para que a nivel científico fuese comparable, tendrían que estar todas secas, porque claro, estamos haciendo recogidas en playas, en ríos, a veces en parques. Entonces, claro, para que fuese comparable y estandarizable, tendrían que estar todas secas y ese proceso no se puede dar con todas las acciones de los voluntarios. Entonces, las contamos por unidad que antes comentábamos con Clarissa, también habíamos comentado que son formas de obtener datos diferentes. Aquí lo que nos indica no es tanto el volumen de lo que recogemos, sino el número de ciudadanos o personas o veces que se han tirado ese residuo. Porque si la mayoría es tabaco, significa que mucha gente está tirando tabaco en el mar. Pero quizás en volumen va a ser mucho menos que otros tipos de plásticos, ¿vale? Siguiente, por favor. Entonces, no sé si se ve muy bien, pero bueno, si no lo voy a ir explicando yo, ¿vale? El año pasado tuvimos 23.000 personas participando en este proyecto, bueno, este es el 23, que considero que bastante, y el 71% eran ítems de usar y tirar, ¿vale? Que ahí es donde tenemos el problema, porque son ítems de plástico que van a tener un ciclo de vida rápido y que van a terminar en el mar. Y una vez están en el mar, no es eficiente retirarlos, porque hay una gran dispersión en el mar, y además, al retirar objetos para el mar y quizás probar a hacer upcycling, muchas veces esos productos tienen mucha peor calidad, porque si lleva tiempo en el mar, se habrá degradado, habrá tenido erosión, etcétera, ¿vale? Por lo tanto, nosotros siempre ponemos foco en la prevención. Entonces, si vamos al top 10, hay muchísimas colillas, más de medio millón y medio de colillas, pero es porque también hacemos campañas para recoger colillas. Pero bueno, lo que es importante es que en el top 10 tenemos bolsas de plástico, tapones de botellas, envases alimentarios, ¿vale? Entonces, las botellas de plástico también están entre las más altas. Es decir, eso nos da una indicación de que en playas principalmente urbanas, los principales residuos, aunque hay cosas de pesca, hay muchos residuos que tienen que ver con el ocio y con la alimentación. Entonces, esos son muy fáciles de prevenir. ¿Qué pasa? Que a día de hoy esos residuos no tienen ningún valor, por lo tanto se abandonan en el medio, cuando si tuviesen un valor económico, pues probablemente mucha gente los retornaría a los espacios designados para ello, ¿no? Y siguiente. Bueno, no me queda mucho ya. Me gustaría estar hablando más, ¿eh? Pero bueno, el tema es, o sea, hemos comprobado que los océanos están llenos de plásticos. Lo hemos visto con nuestras recogidas. Sabemos que el plástico no desaparece, porque esto que hablábamos de no, dura 100 o 1000 años, es una verdad a medias, no desaparece. Esos plásticos se van a ir haciendo pequeños. Y cuanto más pequeños son, más peligrosos son. Porque entran en la fauna, entran en el ser humano, ya sabéis que hay estudios de microplásticos en la sangre, en la placenta, en la orina, y se sabe también desde hace poco que entran en el cerebro, con lo que el impacto del plástico es súper alto. ¿Cómo va a desarrollar esto? Es muy difícil a nivel de salud ver todos los impactos, pero sabemos que puede haber problemas de desarrollo, problemas endocrinos y otros muchos problemas, ¿vale? Entonces, sabemos que hay plásticos en el mar, muchísimos, sabemos que es muy difícil recuperarlos porque no es eficiente y sabemos que esos plásticos entran en la cadena trófica a través del pescado, pero que también los tenemos nosotros dentro y que nos causan enfermedades. Con lo que yo creo que ya hemos validado que es un problema y que hacen falta sistemas que ayuden a prevenir esto. Esto de la derecha es una foto muy chula, es de un proyecto de investigación que colaboramos con la Universidad de Barcelona que se llama Surfing for Science, en el que recogen microplásticos en aguas de baño. Han encontrado densidades de 6 microplásticos por metro cuadrado, que, bueno, dices, oye, igual no es tanto, claro, pero estamos hablando del mar donde todo se está esparciendo. Y además me han comentado que tienen datos que no han publicado, pero que hay datos que son de varias decenas más. Entonces, realmente hay una contaminación microplástica que no la estamos observando, que está en el mar y que está causando esos impactos que comentaba antes. Limpiar el mar nunca ha sido una opción, esto para mí es un greenwashing total, se pueden retirar residuos, pero no es eficiente y una vez está en el mar la dispersión es súper alta. Por lo tanto, siempre hablamos de un foco en la prevención y como ya comentaba, el 70% de los residuos que encontramos en nuestras recogidas son de objetos de un solo uso, por lo tanto, hacemos mucha hincapié en esto, en la reutilización y en el reciclaje, para evitar esos tratamientos más finalistas. Y otra conclusión que me gusta poner siempre es que siempre que hay un cambio de sistema tiene que ir acompañado de una comunicación potente, porque si el ciudadano no entiende ese cambio de sistema, deja de ser eficiente, pero por mucho que tengas la ciudadanía involucrada, si no hay un sistema que lo respalde, tampoco funciona. No tiene sentido que en países que estamos tan cerca haya tasas de reciclaje o de recuperación de residuos tan dispares, porque no hay tampoco unos cambios culturales tan importantes como para que pase esto. Entonces, el sistema también es muy importante para eso. Y hasta aquí era mi ponencia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Xavi. That was very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to take some time for Q&A. You all have the ability to look at the QR code and ask questions that way. I already have a few teased up here that are ready to go. So let's start with Martín, please. On the Global South, it's very interesting what you talked about. What can a DRS actually look like on the ground in the Global South? I mean, we all know what it looks like up here in Europe. Some people know what it looks like in Canada, for example, or in America. Are there existing practices that the system can build on? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you for the question. Actually, we have been working in Latin America with Bolivia and Uruguay. There's a very specific example there we can bring to illustrate this. How it will look like, it depends on many factors, and we know this. No DRS is equal to another. There's so many variables that will equalize to deliver a different system. But for instance, retail infrastructure is a key point. And when we looked at Bolivia, we have hundreds of thousands of little shops, whereas in Uruguay we have like a more modern retail infrastructure. Not as modern as in Europe, but we have big supermarkets, hypermarkets, and so on. So what we saw there is that the returning convenience would be different from Bolivia and Uruguay. In one case, it would be 100% manual, and in the second case, it would be around 60-40. So the way that the containers are going to be delivered probably is going to vary, not from how they are only in Europe, but also among different countries in Latin America as well. And then there was another question about what to build on existing. Yeah, actually, what we saw, for instance, in Uruguay, because we have been working, as I said before, on the design of the system that is going to be launched next year. And logistically, there already was a lot of reverse logistics in place that can be used. For instance, cooperatives of waste pickers are already collaborating with the government and with producers. And so we saw an opportunity to use those cooperatives that are formally integrated already. They could work as intermediate hubs for logistically, reverse logistics, but also as logistics providers, for instance. So there's many things that are already happening, and we should try to see what's going on there and how it could fit a DRS, because actually it could give a lot of benefit to a DRS, a lot of capillarity, for example.
And just on Uruguay, when do we think we're going to see the first bottle go?
That's a great question. We believe it's going to be by the end of 2026.
Okay, so keep an eye on that.
First country in Latin America, yes, to have a DRS, not only for plastic and cans, plastic bottles and cans, but for Tetra, glass bottles, juices, sodas, all type of beverages. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
So the whole universe of beverages is what they're looking at in Uruguay.
Yes, and they already have reuse in place. So it'll be reuse and recycling.
Okay, mix. And we like to refer, we all want to speak the same language when we talk about DRS. When we talk about both single-use and reusable DRS together, like we see in many countries in Europe, we call this a mixed system. So if you hear people talking about a mixed DRS, it's both refillables and non-refillables. Thank you very much. Okay, Anna, I want to ask you a question. How different is the vision from producers before and after a DRS is put in place? And I know in some countries we have, Anna, you do a lot of work in Eastern Europe. Obviously, you're Polish, so you're very active in Poland. You were active in Slovakia. You've been active in Bulgaria. There's often producers don't want to see a DRS. Tell me about that transition. Give us your experience, please.
Well, in the past, producers were a little bit hesitant to the deposit system as collection method for beverage containers. Now, I think all European producers that have experienced the recent implementations in European countries are extremely happy for many reasons. First of all, deposit has brought new quality to the post-consumer management of packaging waste, and beverage containers represent a huge group in this waste category. And interestingly, those are the systems with extremely high efficiency. After all, everything is about money and about the cost of the system. And we know today that deposit systems represent extremely high efficiency due to the fact, or thanks to the fact, that actually deposit systems in Europe have been first in applying net cost principle, which is now the rule in the packaging and packaging waste regulation for all other packaging items, and actually the rule for all extended producer responsibility, which means the financial responsibility of the producers. So it's fantastic environmental result. It's good for climate because the collection through DRS reduces the climate impact compared to other collection methodologies. And producers can close the loop. In many European countries now, producers have access to material through the DRS. So not only 90% of 100% that has been placed on market is collected, but also those resources collected, secondary materials, do go to the closed recycling loop. We experience in Europe now, I have had pleasure to experience now in Sweden. In Sweden, it has been a case since 2009. Now there are many more countries. Bottle becomes a bottle and can becomes the can. So producers have fantastic system, do not experience their brand exposed to the scandals related to the litter cleanups at a very cost-efficient cost and with possibility to close the loop.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, and now to Xavier. I want to know about Spain. How important is a DRS for Spain, where you have many territories that need extra care, such as islands and protected marine areas? Can you expand on that, please?
Muy importante. ¿Os imagináis que termino así la pregunta? No, realmente es muy relevante. En el momento en el que nos damos cuenta que no cumplimos con los plazos que marca la Comisión Europea respecto a la gestión de residuos, estamos yendo siempre atrás. Todas las entidades que hemos estado haciendo incidencia a nivel estatal, la Alianza Residuo Cero, la Ley de Residuos Ya, que han sido movimientos asociativos que han hecho mucho lobby ambiental, digamos, siempre hemos tenido muy en cuenta que si vamos más atrás de lo que marca la Unión Europea y seguimos con las mismas vías, no vamos a llegar a esos puntos. Por lo tanto, es como si estás cateando mates y no apruebas mates, quizás necesitas clases de refuerzo, ¿no? Para mí el sistema de depósito es como un acelerador que va a permitir llegar a esos objetivos de gestión de residuos. Por lo tanto, súper importante. Hablamos de un país que tiene muchísima costa, muchísimos turistas y que sabemos que esos residuos llegan al mar, ¿no? Por lo tanto, el poder evitar que esos residuos lleguen al mar es muy relevante. También quiero hacer mención que muchas veces no somos conscientes de que muchos residuos se tiran en tierra adentro y terminan llegando al mar, ¿no? Es decir, no solo afecta a los municipios que están en la propia costa, los que están en el interior, que van a estar tirando residuos cerca de ríos o de lagos o de otros sistemas acuáticos, muy probablemente esos residuos van a llegar al mar. Porque sabemos que el plástico, lo he dicho antes, no me voy a repetir mucho, pero no desaparece. Entonces yo creo que es una cuestión súper importante. Creo también que hay otra cosa. Hay gente que ya nos escribe y nos pregunta sobre el sistema de depósito. Gente que nos sigue en redes y nos dice, hostia, pero esto no está aprobado. O ¿cuánto tardan? Yo me acuerdo que había comentarios de, ¿cuántos años van a tardar en ponerlo? ¿No? Cosas así. O sea, yo creo que hay mucha gente que está sensibilizada y que quiere este sistema porque sabe que va a potenciar que otra mucha gente a la que le da igual el medio ambiente, que no llegamos nosotras con nuestra acción a esa gente que le da igual el medio ambiente, pero que ya no le importa tampoco el dinero, pues que entre a hacer una mejor gestión, ¿no? Entonces, conseguimos que llegue a toda la ciudadanía y yo creo que ese es el éxito de un sistema, ¿no?
Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to mention something. If Cesar can put our last chart, because we wanted to share as well that the 3rd of December, we are going to give a webinar on DRS. Hola. It doesn't work. Ahora sí? Ahora sí.
Sí.
I just wanted to share the last slide. I don't know if we saw it, but here you can scan it. We are going to give a webinar on the 3rd of December on DRS and reuse, and we will talk about many examples in the global south that are already happening. Actually, people are used to living with a deposit today. So we believe really that we need to extend this to single-use containers. So just scan it and we'll see there. Meet you there.
Okay, I'm gonna go into the audience, and if you want to ask a question, put your hand up. But while you're thinking, I just wanted, Xavier mentioned that, consumers change their behavior, that the deposit sort of helps them behave better. So Anna, how can municipalities, speaking of municipalities and their costs, how can they benefit from this behavior change that comes from DRS, meaning a more active and engaged community with the waste management system? How can municipalities take advantage of this?
Municipalities do get a lot of advantages related to the deposit systems. I have presented the findings of the fact sheet that will be released next week. By Reloop platform, there are a lot of savings related to the system, and this is related to the fact that deposit systems capture littered items in the public spaces, capture on-the-go consumption. Actually, today, I don't know if you are aware, but we have asked municipalities in Sweden and in Poland what happens with the content of the public litter bins. It goes directly to disposal, to incineration. So all that represents the costs, and you can read more about that in the fact sheet. And with regards to the behavioral change, well, we have a situation of a customer, a consumer who can see the value of the material in every bottle and every can that is under a deposit system. And automatically, he is motivated and she is motivated to bring it back to a deposit collection point. This also translates into the change of behavior in terms of other waste categories, not least other packaging items. We see the benefits of that in new countries that have introduced deposit systems, as well as in old countries like Norway. Deposit systems are the only national waste management systems in individual countries, and they are linked to very efficient environmental awareness raising campaigns. Those are the only systems that are advertised in the TV, radio, and nationally in social media. So that gives a lot of impulse for the consumers, for the citizens to learn more and to be aware more about the impact of their behavior in terms of waste that they generate.
Thank you, Anna. Now we're going to turn to the audience. We have a question from Nicolas Hudak. Please stand up if you don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nicolas Hudak, the Director General of the European Soft Drinks Industry. Thank you, Clarissa. Just a question for Martin about the waste pickers. I would like you to expand a bit on that, because the waste pickers are a very important community also in the international discussions around the Global Plastic Treaty. You mentioned it. Could you expand a bit more about how we bring the waste pickers within this story? Thank you very much.
I mean, to take the example of what happened in Chile, in Uruguay, and in Latin America, Chile was a very good example of they were introducing the conversations of EPR very early on. So before the operator was selected, before the dynamic of the system was defined, of the extended periods of responsibility system, they are not going to have DRS in Chile so far, but they were integrated early on. And that's what we believe that needs to be done, because otherwise we running the risk of foregoing a lot of things that are happening in the moment that could be part of the system, as it was in Uruguay, for instance.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah. Okay, I'll read. Okay, we have one here. Nicolas, could you pass and then I'll read the other one out. Go ahead. Please tell us who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald McCalman from DRS International. It's actually a follow-up question on the waste pickers. Genuine head scratcher. So waste pickers just now exist in schemes where there is no deposit return scheme, and they get value from the waste, presumably because there is value selling it as plastic. Do you see any risks to that community when the value is more associated with the returning for the deposit? So it would be higher than the value of the plastic, and litter in the beach, which have lost their labels, may not therefore be returnable into a DRS system. How do you think you can balance that risk?
Actually, yeah, there is that risk. If they are not integrated in such a system, as we see, the system is very effective at taking out all the littering. So they won't find material to recover. So what we worked on, the Uruguayan case that I mentioned before, is on a double income stream for waste pickers that would be formally introduced in the system. One is bottles that are collected. I mean, systems are performing 90%, 85%, some of them. So there is still a gap of bottles that are still littered, and they could be recovered in that way, and that would be even increasing the system. But then all the manual part of the system, so like all the bottles that are returned to a kiosk or small shops, were going to be received manually. Then the logistic point from the store to a hub to the counting center, and so on and so forth. The first phase of that logistic was going to be performed by cooperatives of waste pickers. So it was the initial idea. So by that work, they are going to receive a logistic fee. So it's not only the collection of containers that now they receive a deposit for every container. It's not the price of the gram or the kilo. There is a lot less also, but also a logistic fee, because they are getting money for a service that they are providing to the system. So, but the key is to not run the risk, is to integrate them and to think about how we can work on this properly, right?
Thank you, Martín. I have a question from online. How do consumers react when a deposit return starts in their countries? Do they change their consumption habits? And I wonder if Susan Collins can just put up her hand. Susan, that lady in the corner is one of the world's experts on deposit return. And on this very topic, we collaborated a few years ago because we wanted to find the answer. Are consumers going to buy less beverages if there's a deposit on it? And we looked at data from all over the world, and we looked at before and after deposit return. And the data clearly reveals that there is no change to consumption. This study, with all of its data, is available online. Just type deposit return impact on sales, and it will come up. You can get it through the Container Recycling Institute or Reloop. It is the most comprehensive real-world data that exists. So I'm just going to finish answering this question to say it is a myth that deposit return systems are going to reduce consumption. You just have to look at the data. This is not about modeling with crazy assumptions. Just look at the data, the real data, and you will see there is no impact. Thank you. Okay, moving on to another question. This is a question about, besides DRS for single-use packaging, how does Spain plan to support further developments around packaging reuse systems? Now, I don't know if anyone on the panel can answer that. No? Probably for the next session. Okay, good. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, in the back, please, Sarah. I think so.
Hi. In the presentation from Surfrider Foundation, sorry, your name's not on the slide. You mentioned the importance of engaging consumers. Do you have any messaging that you think is particularly useful for consumers in your experience?
So the messaging
To get consumers engaged. Messaging. Is there some messaging that is effective?
in terms of raising awareness.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. The mic. Yeah, to clarify, if I understood properly the question, because it's to message to raising awareness for consumers, right? Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. It's quite difficult to answer, because what we do as NGO is always we have a positive message. You know, like other NGOs can start more like shaming. It's not how we work on that. So we are always going for the positive message, like trying to improve a system, try to improve behavior and impact that. Our lemma is act positive, protect the ocean. So it's like how we see ourselves. But it's very difficult for me because for some people, they don't worry about how the ocean is or how the situation is on some environmental topics. So for some people, it's very difficult to engage them and understand that there is really an issue. But for me, the best message is that when we are doing a waste collection, because we do waste collection sometimes with companies, sometimes with a school, sometimes we organize, I don't know, a waste collection and then a paddle surf session. And that's the most powerful message, because you arrive at the beach and you see that apparently the beach is very clean, and people ask, "What are we going to collect waste here?" Like, that's something that happens a lot. And then after 1 hour, you find 1,000 items, 2,000 items, 3,000 items, 5,000 cigarettes, hundreds of bottles, whatever. It depends on the beach and the moment and on different aspects. But that's the most powerful message. So we try to do raising awareness, connecting people with the environment, with the beach, with what's happening on the ground. And I think that's the most powerful message on that side. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. A question from Nadir.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Can you present yourself?
Yeah, I'm Nadir Sinsir from Morocco, representing Zero Waste Skhera, which is a beach town close to Rabat in Morocco. And I had a question for the Global South, the Martin, I think, is about, the question is, how do you plan on implementing? I mean, I know South America is looking at it, but in Africa, I don't see yet any approach. And I was really interested to push everybody on the same page as Europe and Latin America. And we have effectively the same problems with the waste pickers, but they're not so organized. And how is there a way to bring the narrative behind it so that we get everybody on board very fast? Actually, I'm asking for a leapfrog, because we have, for the World Cup, we're hopefully going to organize in about 5 years, 2030. We'd love to be ready for that with the DRS system on our side in Morocco. And so the ideas behind it is, how do we shortcut the system, because we only have 5 years, and what would be your advice to get fast on track and to implement it? Because already Morocco is working on the EPR system, trying to put it in legislation, but it's going to take a lot of time to be applied locally. And so the idea is, how can we put the DRS system in place? Because when I talk about DRS system, they say, okay, well, let's wait to put the EPR system and then put it in place in the DRS. And I say we don't have time for that. We just have to get to it. The problem is, it's different. Local realities are different in each region, and even in Morocco in each region. So this is my question to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And the challenge is that, as you said, every region is different, and even waste pickers have different organizations in every region. Some are more formally integrated, some have a regulation that backs them up, some are not organized at all. So first, what I would say is this is one of the objectives of the Global DRS platform, to collaborate and to help in these regards. So let's get in contact and let's keep talking about this further. But I would say that there is no one single solution. We need to work on that, Nadir, to explore what we can do about it. If that's okay, we can keep on talking later.
And just to add that, if you look at all of the EPR programs for packaging around the world and deposit return systems, many of these countries or states or provinces in Canada have both EPR for packaging and DRS, which is run by the producers. And in some cases, they might even share some competencies. They may share infrastructure. So the notion of having the two systems working together is very doable and is being done. It's not a problem. And I know that in America, for example, they're facing the same thing, where it's like, do we do EPR for packaging or do we do DRS? And we're saying, why don't you do both? Because EPR for packaging is not going to get you the kind of beverage container, curbside collection is not going to get you the kind of results you need, because so many of the beverage containers are consumed outside of the home. And this has always been the case. It continues to be the case. And DRS is the only way to capture those beverage containers. If we don't have another question, Or do we? Then I'm going to break a couple of minutes early for coffees, right? Mikkel, would you like to tell us where we're going for coffee?
Yes, we're going the floor downstairs. Vamos abajo. Ahora salimos. Tenemos un ratito para un break, para tomar un cafetito y unas pastitas y luego volvemos y empezaremos con otra mesa. Muchas gracias a todas.
Downstairs is the coffee break. Please come up in half an hour for the next session to begin. Thank you. Well done.